Hey, I'm Eric.
And I'm Chris.
And we're Mak Ro.
And today we're here with We Are Memphis to have a little chat.
Yeah.
I guess, Eric, what's going on in your world?
It is good, man. I'm just making music every day.
Yeah, I know.
I'm working at
I live with you.
Yeah.
I know, like, as independent artists, we kind of have to wear a lot of hats.
Mm.
For you, what's kind of your favorite, like, things to, like, take on?
Anything that has to do with sound, I just love it. It's like, I'm like obsessed with it. It's so crazy. Not just like guitar, not just like piano. Like,
What are you chasing, though, I guess, when you're creating?
I'm just chasing like what excites me. And honestly, it can be hard to get to that point because it's like my filter is so like ultra fine mesh, I guess. Kind of analogy.
It's very refined now.
Yeah, so it's like whenever it's hard for me to get excited by like
you really have
certain,
to try hard to find like the thing that inspires you.
But that's what makes it super fun though.
Yeah.
Because it's like you gotta really like dig for it.
Yeah. And I like the stuff that you do because like you never just go for like the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
I feel like you always go for like the things that are very interesting, and like that have never been done before, which is like I think that's what inspires me the most.
Yeah.
When somebody has done something that like has never really been done before, I'm just like gagged, like like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's weird because I don't really like think about it like that. I'm trying to do something that nobody else has done because it's like I kind of like just create music to like hit like a certain spot in me, and then like it's like like that feels so cool. Like I've like never felt that. I've never felt that before. I might have heard it before, but I never felt that before.
I think what's fun though is whenever like I hop on like the worlds that you do create from like a sonic perspective.
Yeah.
And like I try to see like what it makes me feel, like having such unique like sounds and like world like sonic like landscapes allows me to kind of be able to tell like the stories that I do tell in like from like a lyrical perspective in like a very unique way too. I guess like my process is that like when I do hear the music, I'm more so like translating what it makes me like that sonic space like makes me feel. And like because I never really go into it thinking like okay I'm gonna write about this like like this breakup or like this like person that made me feel like a certain way. It's always been like what does this like musical like space like call for.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that.
Fashion is like a huge thing for us, obviously, but I guess like for you, where do you kind of like get your I guess like inspiration from for like what you wear?
It comes from just like what I find cool at the moment. I usually don't really find it through other people. It's really just like, oh, that looks kind of cool, and I'll try it on, and then it's like, oh, it kind of looks good on me, even if it's like an XL like size thing, or like if it's like a super small piece of clothing. Like I like to play with like sizes of clothing. I don't I'll get something that's like extra small, and then go all the way up to like double XL. And I like to play with that like proportioning for some reason. At the moment, that's what I like to do, but I think it'll even morph. Like 5 or 10 years from now. What about you?
For me, I like to kind of blur the lines between like feminine and like masculine clothing. And so around the pandemic time, I started really wearing things that like made me uncomfortable and like leaned into more like my feminine side side of things. And but now I think I'm like I love like kind of like balancing the two, and having like an edgier side to things, but then also like a feminine, like just kind of like balancing the two, because I hate doing stuff that like have been done before in every like medium that I touch on as an artist. And also just like being a queer artist too, that's like my main like motive is just like I don't have to be boxed in by like anybody's like standards or like whatever anybody tells me. I can really do whatever I want.
Like an open palette.
Exactly.
Like an even bigger open like palette to choose from.
Like why like box myself when I can be like everything.
Why not?
And everywhere all at once.
I feel like that's
great movie, by the way.
I feel like that same concept is how I approach music too. And not even just music, but even when it comes to like when we do visuals too. Like
as a straight guy, I guess, like does it ever kind of like worry you that like as a like gay person, I'm obviously gonna do the more like more feminine, like touch on like more feminine like side of things. Where I guess for like straight dudes, there's like such a like box of just like you have to be like this masculine thing. Does it ever like worry you that like people are gonna like
Never.
Yeah.
I think just because like one of like my I guess like philosophy kind of things that I've always believed in is like, I love people who are just like fully themselves. Like if you're like totally doing what you like, I don't have to even like it. But I can respect the fuck out of it.
That is one of the things that I've always appreciated is that like, you know, you've always kind of like given me like the space to be like just like free form. I mean, even like from when we first started, you know, I had a conversation with you. I was just like, hey, like, are you cool with me like, you know, having more like lyrics where it's like a little bit more obvious that like, you know, like to kind of paint my sexuality a little bit more, I guess, like bluntly. And like there was like never hesitation from you. It was like you always told me like to not like care about like what audiences we lose from being authentic, which is like but that's the weird thing that I like found though, as like, you know, I've kind of grown to be more authentic with my penmanship, I guess, is that like I feel like the more closer I am to like my actual experiences, the more people actually connect with it.
Yeah, because if you tried to, I feel that, because if you tried to be liked by everybody, even if you're like in a friend group, like if you're trying to be liked by everybody,
people can feel that, like
they feel it, and then you also like have to sacrifice like bits and pieces of yourself to be liked by everybody.
Yeah, because you're not really like expressing yourself. You're expressing a version of yourself that you think will be
everybody's gonna
validated.
Yeah. But then you hold back parts of yourself.
Yeah.
So then like you can't really say like, oh, I do like actually having plants in my room, or I actually really do like interior decorating. And I feel like a guy, like if like a straight dude might say that, it might come off as like, oh, that's like super feminine.
Yeah.
But like, that's actually so sick.
Yeah.
You went, you know, you like it, so you went and did it.
Yeah.
That's cool. I respect the hell out of that.
No, I guess like speaking of kind of like, you know, the external validation, I feel like that's so rampant in like our industry when it comes to just like everybody always like the goals are always almost always like external validation when it comes to like streams and like, you know, just like accolades and like all that kind of stuff. I guess for you, like how do you measure success in like what we do, and like how does that like help you like navigate like who you are as an artist?
Like those things like streams, or those things like awards, or
like numbers in general.
Yeah, or even like, similar to like that is like grades in school. Like you know, they're dope and they definitely can make you feel like really like good inside. But from like a long-term perspective, it doesn't really have that effect. And I feel like with internal validation, which is like, you know, it's like when we release a song, we love everything about it. Even if people are like, that's whack. But if you love everything about it when you release it, it doesn't really matter what anybody says. And that like that feeling is so much more different, or so much like different than like, oh, having a good grade on tests. Or having like an award. But
to kind of like pivot the conversation now, you know, we've been doing a lot of live shows, especially thanks to Music Export Memphis, kind of like putting us in like places that we really never would have imagined we would be, which like shout out to Music Export Memphis. What makes me really proud about like our live shows is the people that we like bring in is like, they're also like cool. Like they're all like all different types of people from like different like, you know, backgrounds. I think that's always like my dream is to, I mean, like with our name, like being Mak Ro, I've always seen it as like it's like music for everybody type of thing. It's like, you know, like a larger scope, and it casts like a wide net that can like everybody can like resonate with. And I think that's one of the things that I really love too, in that like, you know, like with us being specific with like the type of music that we like put out there, it still connects with like so many different types of people. Like that's wild to me.
There's this thing by like Rick Rubin that I love, and he's like, you know, you can't really create for the audience because if you do that, it's like a misservice to like yourself. And even to them, it's a misservice to them. So, or I guess a disservice. Wrong word.
But I think what attracts me to be a fan of another artist is seeing their humanity. Like what they do.
For real.
And like that to me feels like super authentic, and like, and even, and it's funny because like, you know, we like, I'll write about like a certain story for like myself. But then like you'll hear it and it's going to be, you're taking it from your perspective.
Yeah.
You know, and like we all just get to use like these like things that we make as like tools for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know.
But yeah, so like, you know, with art kind of having like a different story each time, what for you has been a different story being like, you know, a gay person? Because I feel like, you know, you had your idea of like what it meant to be gay like when you were younger, or maybe you didn't even know like what that meant at the time, and until like, what does that mean for you now?
I think one of my favorite things about being like, you know, like who I am is, especially like as queer people, again, we are not meant to be boxed into like a certain thing.
Yeah.
And so I think where I find the most joy in being a queer artist is that I really get to push the envelope on like everything, whether it comes to lyrics, storytelling, like imagery, just like even like the way that I dress and like just like everything. Like there's no like ceiling to where I can go as long as like I personally, you know, really like the thing that I'm expressing.
Yeah.
And you know, being like a gay artist in the South, it's like not like the most like, you know, welcome thing. I mean, like in Tennessee, we still have like cities that are trying to outlaw like being gay in public, which is like wild to me. But and there's so many times in my life, and there have been times in my life where I've left, you know, this city because I felt like I don't have the space that like I can feel comfortable in. But I think when I left the city, you know, I was inspired by like cities like Denver and like New York and like, you know, these like larger cities, and like seeing how people like carve out spaces for queer people in those like cities. I wanted to do the same thing when I came back here. But that is one of the opportunities that, you know, I do want to take as a queer artist, is to just keep carving out spaces in places where we're not welcome.
Yeah.
Because and I want to show people like, you know, the value that like what a queer like a perspective from the LGBTQIA plus community, like how valuable that is in every space, not just like, you know, where like in bigger cities, but like in smaller towns too.
Yeah. And I feel like art is a great medium.
It's the best medium for that.
Medium to do
exactly. Because like I think like, you know, especially like telling like like perspectives from like a gay person, anybody can resonate with that. It's not just gay people that resonate with our like, you know, with my lyrics. It's like literally like everybody can like resonate depending on like what you are. And again, like to go back to like our crowds that we bring in for our shows, it's just like it's really cool to have like a very specific perspective that we're telling from, but then have it resonate with like all sorts of people. And so but it shows that like, you know, like gay people, straight people, and like everybody in between, we're all just like the same. We're all human. We feel things. We're going through very human experiences. And I think the more that we, I guess, celebrate like our differences, the more that we celebrate like our uniqueness and our differences over like, you know, making that the thing that divides us. I think like, you know, that's always like created a better sense of community for me, and that's always been my goal as a gay artist, is to just like make everybody feel comfortable in who they are. So
it's like an interconnected struggle. In a way. For everybody. That's how I've kind of seen it too. I think like when you were younger, it's kind of going back, but when was the moment that you knew that you weren't like a straight person, or like when you were gay?
Bro, I knew very early on, like literally probably like when I was like 4, and I just like remember just like, you know, feeling like differently about things. And I know like being like Asian and like growing up Catholic, like that was one of the things that like made me feel like such an anomaly, is that like it wasn't like very like welcomed, but like, and I had to unlearn like me feeling like I'm not supposed to be the way that I am in like my 20s. But once I got to the end point of that, like the more that I like allowed myself to really express myself for who I am, the more doors that actually opened for me. Because like whenever I first like, when I was like graduating like college and all that stuff, like I was like still scared that like I had to put a mask on like to be defensive, to be like, you know, in order for me to be like successful in life and for people to get me, I have to kind of like mirror like everything else around me. but like that made me so mid. Like I was like, seriously, I got so boring like doing that. But then once I kind of like flipped the script and be like, you know what, let like I'm gonna be myself and like let's see what happens. Yeah. And like, but that's when like the most like honest connections and like relationships like started like coming my way. Yeah. And like the best opportunities like literally ever just kind of started like presenting themselves, which is like wild.
And that like that idea is a quality that all of us should like strive for, I feel like. Because that idea of like being yourself is really hard. It actually is really hard because like, you know, you go to school, you have to live up to grades, like you gotta like get promoted at your job, and that's kind of viewed as like what's like, you know, the thing to do, right? And so like throughout our life we're taught to assimilate.
You have to fit this mold, you know? But
and for you guys too, like you know fitting a mold seems to be like this human thing. And even if you're not gay like me, like if I start to fit into the mold of like, you know, what is like a straight guy supposed to do? They're supposed to act tough, masculine, like. And y'all
are bad. Y'all are crazy about that, especially like the straight like world. There's like such crazy like expectations and like what masculinity is. Yeah. And then like, you know, how do you kind of like navigate that, like being like an artist, and like, you know, how do you I guess like create your sense of like what masculinity is and like, you know, your identity with that?
I believe those words like, you know, masculinity and like, you know, femininity, they're ever-changing words throughout like the course of like human history. Yeah. You know, because at one point, like what it meant to be masculine was probably very different in like maybe the 1500s. What it is now is like, you know, obviously like what I was just telling you, like, you know, you gotta be tough, like you can't have emotions, like, all that kind of stuff. But now the current like where it's kind of heading now is like, oh, like be open. Like, you know, you don't
like
have
the
to
new thing that's defining masculinity is actually vulnerability. Over like always being on guard.
Yeah. Right? So like the definition of it is going to change throughout time. So you don't have to like subconsciously stick to this like idea of it, because it's an ever-changing word. And if you were to ask like a therapist, if you're asked like a doctor, if you're to ask like your friend, like they all probably have very different definitions of like femininity and like masculinity, because it's just different how you perceive it, I guess. And so really it's kind of like with you guys, just like define it how you want to define it for yourself. And I think if everybody kind of subconsciously thinks about it from that kind of lens, it's kind of how you said, like when you started respecting your own self and like doing what you like, being like true to who yourself as a gay person, it's the same like for everybody else. Like you start finding like long-term like peace like in you. So that's huge.
You know what's really surprising for me is that like, I mean, like for a moment in my life, like all I was hanging out with like was like with gay people, which like it makes sense because that's like where I felt like the most comfortable. But like at some point though, I started like opening my circle up to people who aren't like exactly like me. And like I found that like straight people like also like, especially straight guys, because like my perception was just like everybody's just like so like tough and like hard and all that stuff. But like my straight friends like talk about their feelings, and like I feel like it's starting to be like a bigger wave to be more vulnerable as a straight man these days.
Yeah, because why can't gay people and straight people be like homies as fuck?
Yeah, like I mean we got this, you know, like we know how to adapt, like slay, like.
But because it's the same thing that we're both like striving to, which is just being ourselves. And if you're trying to stick to some mold, you can't. It doesn't really, you know. So. That's why I feel like I think it's nice to have friends who are from every type of like background. Every type of like financial, like poor or rich, like gay, like not gay, like you know, like all like kinds of people will help you like see like, oh, like this is who I truly am. It kind of is like a mirror for you to know, like, no, maybe I shouldn't say something like that because like that offends them. Like
and that's one of the things too, is that like I think becoming like, you know, like learning more about people who aren't like you get to understand better how to navigate like yourselves to where you don't harm people that like aren't like you. Like you know.
No, agreed. And so I've made those mistakes. I'm
And me too.
I think
like all the time. Like,
I've definitely made those mistakes, and I've like done things where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or like I should have seen it from like your perspective as a gay person. Like I wasn't thinking about it like that, and so like, but the best part is like when you like learn. Yeah. That's the best.
Ooh, okay. Speaking of that, when it comes to mistakes,
yeah.
Like, you know how like online, like if somebody like messes up like one thing, everybody just like immediate like the whole cancel culture and like all that kind of stuff. Like where do you kind of stand in like?
It's I don't know if I really agree with like cancel culture, because it doesn't really allow someone to grow. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like we're all gonna make some shitty mistakes
all the time.
Like I fuck up all the time.
Yeah.
But like if you totally like neglect someone because they make like a mistake that's happens to be perceived by millions of people. Yeah. Like, and everybody cancels it because it's heavily perceived. Then, you know, it doesn't really give them a space to like think about what they've done.
And I think like acknowledging somebody's like mistake is like not a like I think that like that should be done. Like, you know, it's just
for
like,
sure. You like tell them like,
up,
hey, like
bro,
that's not
like,
right.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, but I think the way that people just kind of like, it's almost like people are dead to them at that point. Like from like, you know, making mistakes. It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't really, like, does that really inspire like somebody to pivot their ways? Or does that just kind of like make them more isolated and like feel like, you know, they can't really grow from that moment, you know?
Yeah, I think they just so happen to be perceived by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because if we were all perceived by a lot of people, we would all be canceled. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
immediately.
Like, and yeah, I know like there's certain people who are like not good people, and they have like ill intent to hurt people. And I still believe like with cancer, I don't know. I believe in like there's positivity in a lot of people. There's like, I look for like, no, they can change. Even if they're like a fucked up person. Like, I don't know. I like believing in that. Yeah. Because there is love and a lot of hate. So that's what I believe in. But yeah. What about you with cancel culture?
I mean, I agree. I think that, like, you know, I think more, like, people will kind of, like, find that, like, first, like, headline and, like, not really dig into, like, what's going on and, like, both, like, perspectives. And then, like, people on the internet are so quick to, like, create a narrative. Yeah. It's honestly, like, scary to, like, you know, be online and, like, but I'm realizing, though, that, like, that's one of the things that we kind of just have to face as artists, because like we have like you know, we're perceived, and that used to be like something that I kind of like got scared of in the beginning, because I'm just like, people are gonna like talk shit, you know, but I think like
you have no control over it.
Yeah, and like I think it's just like, as long as I'm strong and I'm grounded in like my beliefs, and like you know, that's really all that matters. If somebody like paints me like a certain way, or like even like takes a jab at like something that like, especially like external stuff, like looks, like people will jab at that like all the time, and then even like the way that like you write music and all that stuff, you know. But as long as like I believe in like what I'm doing, and like I believe in like, who I am, and I respect who I am. I think I'm Gucci.
Yeah,
like, you know,
because you can't really control how people like perceive you. Yeah, but you can control how you move on from that. Yeah. And
it's all about like, if you fuck up, just pivot and like do something better. You know?
And and I think it's like, you're right, like owning up to like that you did like mess up. Yeah. That's huge.
That's like that's first, huge. Like, I mean, that's like the biggest thing. It's like, because if you don't like accept that you messed up, then like, how do you like know to pivot the next time like that thing comes up?
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's huge. And I feel like, you know, when people deny that they messed up, they know in their heart. Yeah. It's like, no, there's something that's not sitting right.
You're just protecting your ego at that point.
Yeah.
Like,
I know I've like kind of adopted this like new mindset. Yeah. I think I've told you this before, but like, it's not about being like right or wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just about like learning. Mm. Because if I'm trying to be right all the time, it doesn't like really make me feel good. Yeah. Like, if someone tells me like, if I tell someone they're wrong, it also doesn't make me feel good that I was right. So like, I think just living in a idea of, I could be wrong, I could be right, but that's not really the goal.
But here's where you see it at the moment.
Yeah.
And like I think you have to be flexible in like your perception on things.
Yeah.
But like I think you do that through like gaining like more perspectives.
Yeah. And I think like for you, like in your community, how has that shaped how you've navigated being like a gay person? Like,
I mean, being a gay person is really, really interesting because like, again, you really don't have like, there's like, there's a mold, but at the same time, there isn't a mold.
Yeah.
You know, and but what I'm realizing is like I just have to like find what works for me.
Yeah.
And in doing so, like, I think where I kind of like got to that conclusion is, especially when we moved back to Memphis and we started working with other queer artists, like I just saw that they were just like all doing their thing, like how they wanted to do. And I was just like, if like other people have the audacity to, you know, tread their own like paths, like why can't I?
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I just like, you just kind of like find like what works for you. And like, you can take like certain advice from people, but like at the end of the day, you have to like really carve the life that like, you have to carve the mold that like works for your like life versus like trying to fit into like what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, I find, you know, like whenever people give advice or like, let's say like a gay person gives you advice, especially if they're probably like an older gay person, it always, or not always, but it seems to come from the younger version.
It's what they need to tell the younger version of themselves, you know?
So whenever I get advice from someone, it's, you know, I'm open to hearing it. Yeah. I'm open to hearing it. But I also like am, I guess, like cognizant that the advice that they're giving me might not be for me. Yeah. But it's actually for them. Yeah. Like the younger version of them that they messed up on. Yeah. So that's something.
But you can take pieces of it and like
and that's
take it for yourself.
Yeah. Because I think there's some.
They crawled so we could run.
Yeah. Have you learned like anything from like older like gay people? Because you know they kind of, I guess in a way, treaded a path before you came along. So
I think what I've learned the most from like gay people that are older than me is that I am lucky to be living in the age that I am as a gay person.
That's cool.
More than anything. Like, it was so much harder back then to be like, you know, yourself. And I really admire like all of the just like all the like fighting people had to do to get to a place now where, you know, it is legal to like marry somebody of the same sex and like, you know, there's just like so many things. But yeah, I think it just makes me feel very lucky, but also it like makes me see that like there's still a fight that needs to be fought when it comes to, you know, keeping our like rights and like all that stuff. You can't just kind of like if seeing like them kind of like take it to where we are now, I think it inspires me to, you know, keep pushing and like, you know, really fight for equality as much as they did.
You know, when you're probably their age, like, I guess like what might you say to the younger?
I don't know. I guess I'll find out when I get that age. But first of all, I'll never be old, so. Yeah. So, okay, I guess like final question. With all that's kind of upcoming for Mak Ro, what are some of the things that like you're super excited to kind of head into?
Honestly, the live show kind of like storytelling of it all is something.
The tour?
Yeah. Because that is such a. I know we've been mostly making like music in our studio here, but like being able to play that outside is still like kind of a relatively new thing. So it's nice having to have like those two almost like big stories. You have the stuff on like, you know, Spotify, music, all that. And then, but then like when you go out and play it, it's like a whole different thing. Yeah. It's so different.
And I know you love to you actually love meeting people.
Like, I love like, meeting people. It's
that
fun.
Energizes you.
Yeah, I'm very extroverted.
So you're better than me because like that like depletes me completely. But it is fun though to connect with people through the art. Yeah. I think that's where I find the most joy in like the live side of things. Yeah. I mean, I get a little like social anxiety every now and then, which is wild because like everybody thinks of me like as this like extroverted like being like, but really I need my time to be like, I gotta go. Like, I'm such a loner. But
it's funny because when people come to me before shows are about to start, I'm super quiet.
That's when you become a loner.
Because I get like I get really nervous before shows.
See, that's when I need everybody to like hype me up.
Yeah.
Like,
no, we're the opposite. Because like you can talk to people before shows and it never like for some reason like.
But it's after shows where I need to like lock myself away into like a dungeon and I just need to sit in silence in the dark somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's when you love to actually like talk to people.
I like talking to people after shows because like I'm not nervous anymore. The shows I don't know why I've always been nervous for shows. Like I still have never been able to figure it out.
Why you're not nervous? Like
because I remember people have been like, oh, you'll never get nervous, so just keep playing more shows. And I've played like a ton of shows now, and like I've been doing music for like half my life, and I still get nervous before shows. So it's super hard for me to like just. I feel like I'm so like quiet.
Yeah. See, like I get nervous after we like play because I'm just like I basically just like bared my emotional like nudes to these people, and now I just have to hide because like you saw like a deeper level of me that I like like is like more is like what you would show like normally to like people like strangers. Yeah. And so after that, but like beforehand they don't like know really much.
You don't know what's underneath.
Like, I haven't like popped my shit yet, so. But after I do pop it, I gotta lock it, like, and then after that I drop it.
Wow, that was like a whole like
that was so profound.
That visual of that was insane.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. But
oh my gosh.
I guess for me, I'm really excited to. I know we've been working on a secret like body of work that is not to be titled yet, but I think I'm really excited to just kind of expand the way that we do our storytelling. Yeah. I know we've been in like a singles factory for about like 5 years now. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm just really excited to let people into the world that we've kind of like penned onto paper. Yeah. And I'm really proud of it too. Like I love like I've never loved a body of work that we've created as much as this one.
Yeah, it's so fire.
And I'm just like really excited to just put that onto the world. But I think the work is now in like, obviously like the creating like the things to present that world. And but that's also like one of my favorite things to do.
That is a fun I love that stage too. Yeah. It's like outside of music. Yeah. So you get to use that philosophy of music into other art forms. Yeah. So I love that too. But yeah, I'm super excited for this stuff. That's it's cooking. Something's cooking.
We're cooking up. The pot is stirring. Like we got some tea brewing. Yeah. But
that's when you know it's good. See, when we feel it's really good, and like you're talking to me about it, and I'm talking to you about it. That's when you like. It doesn't matter what anybody says.
Yeah, I don't even need anybody to look at it.
Like I love it so much that even if somebody like didn't really like it, it's okay. Yeah, it's so okay. Yeah. So, but yeah.
Anything else though that you wanna kind of talk about? That's burning in the back. What's your Roman Empire right now?
My Roman Empire. Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be like music related, but just like what's something that you like think about like all the time.
How art is like, this is like a new thing, but I just see how every art form is like so connected to each other. Like the creation process is so identical.
Okay. Like there's parallels to all art forms basically.
Yeah. Like the feeling, we were talking about this yesterday, but like the feeling of aspect ratio. Yeah. And like
so wideness, like the wideness of like a song.
And like a song. Is basically like an identical kind of like feeling.
That's your Roman Empire? Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's deep. I know. My Roman Empire is like my Roman Empire is like I'm into oat milk right now. That's what I've been putting in my coffee. Like
I like how we have that huge contrast of like
I'm like whoa, art is everywhere, bro. And I'm over here like worrying about like not being bloated. Like but yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun.
It's amazing.
But yeah, it's been fun talking to you. Even though I already talk to you all the time.
We do this all the time.
I know.
We go in this studio and then we just talk about this all the time. Yeah. And while we make music, and then like I talk about this stuff to myself.
I know.
When I'm like in my bed, it's like staring at the ceiling. I feel like I like think a lot. I think a lot about
You think
shit.
so much.
I think so fucking much.
That's
dude.
okay. I feel so much. So like while you're thinking about stuff in bed, I'm crying in my bed about like other things. So it's parallel. It's parallel. You know, at the end of the But yeah, no, it's been really fun, and we want to thank We Are Memphis for giving us an opportunity to chat today, and make sure to check them out and check out our music on Spotify, Apple Music, all of the above. And we look forward also to going on tour next spring, and we hope to see you guys soon. So.
Peace.
Nice. Should we do the handshake right now? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that? All right. Cut. We're done. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.